opportunities on thousands of CFD markets, including shares, indices, forex, commodities, and more. Whether you're an experienced trader or new to the markets, IG provides you with a trading platform that best suits your needs. At IG, we're on your side.
Hi, I'm Ik Jin Rong, Market Strategist at IG. Join us every morning at 7:30 a.m. on Money FM as we share with you the latest news and market action on IG Morning Market.
In addition, let your trades take you further and earn KrisFlyer miles when you trade with IG. Terms and conditions apply. Find out more at ig.com/SG today. CFDs are leveraged products. Losses can exceed deposits. For risk warning, risk fact sheet, and full disclaimers, please go to our website at ig.com/SG. This advertisement has not been reviewed by the Monetary Authority of Singapore. Get up to speed with all the news and information you need to confidently make the decisions for your business and personal finance. With the Breakfast Huddle, Your Money 12 to 1, the Afternoon Update, and Prime Time. M89.3, Singapore's
Hello to everyone joining us on social media this Thursday as well. To those of you joining us on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, it's great to be back with you again today as we come to the end of the work week. I'm Rachel Kelly, and I'm joined in the studio by Hong Bin Jong, our wonderful finance presenter.
Hello.
And earlier on the show, we were talking about today. It's the 6th of October, but Hong Bin shared it's a special day today.
Yes, it's Inbox Zero Day. So you should have your inboxes at zero. But earlier in the show, Rachel did say she had over 32,700, I believe.
So I did. At 1 o'clock, I updated at the start of the show. This is for my personal inbox. I just want to clarify this. So my personal inbox has over 32,700 emails. That was about 2 hours ago. It's now gone up to 32,800. It's hitting 32,900. I don't know where all of these emails are coming from, but my work email is much more organized. Taking a look at where my work emails are at now, I've been clearing them throughout the show, and they're in the single digits.
You're
so
cheating, aren't you?
Hong Bin was quite shocked when I shared with her that I had over 32,000 unread emails in my personal inbox.
I asked
it's
her
terrible.
if those are fan mails. 32,000 fans. That's a lot.
No comment on that. Well, how many unread emails do you have in your inbox, Hong Bin? Personal and work email.
Personal. Let me take a look. Personal, I have 18. And work email, I have 63.
You got too much time to be clearing all these. So we want to hear from you. How many unread emails do you have in your inbox? Drop us a comment in the section below or drop us a text, 8855-0893. Can any of you top my 32,000? Let us know.
I want to know too.
I know. I'm feeling quite embarrassed about it now. I'm going to take time this weekend, although I wonder how long it would take me to clear 32,000 emails. Oh my goodness. And I'm not joking, by the way. I'm going to show you. Look at this.
I saw it. I couldn't believe my eyes.
Can you see this? Oops, that's a picture of my baby. There we go. There you go.
Oh my goodness.
There we go. Yep, you can see that. You can kind of see that. Okay, there we are. Anyway, coming up this hour on the show, we're going to check in on the markets in just a bit. But have you thought about buying an EV here in Singapore? Well, if you have, you are not alone. The EV numbers are significantly higher this year than they were last year, but they're still relatively low. Just taking a look at this report from KPMG of the 645,150 cars on Singapore roads in 2021, only 2,900 of those were EVs. So what do we need to do to further drive EV adoption here in Singapore? Do you see what I did there? Further drive EV adoption? Yes, all the puns today. We will find out in just a bit. We're going to speak with Sharad Somani, who's a partner and head of infrastructure at KPMG Asia Pacific. He's going to be talking to us about EV adoption here in Singapore. If you've got any questions for him, let us know as well. Drop us a comment or text us 8855-0893. But let's check in on the markets now.
Money FM 89.3. Financial updates from the Business Times.
Singapore shares higher this Thursday. The STI currently up 0.2% at 3,159 points. Taking a look at advancers leading the pack today, 236 to 204 decliners. In terms of volume, at the moment, we're sitting at about 1.01 billion securities worth $632 million changed hands so far. Recently, we spoke about SATs and some updates that we saw from SATs that saw share price, the SAT share price move quite significantly lower. There's an update now, and Hong Bin's going to share more on that with us.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel. You did choose SATs as your stock to watch last week, right?
I did.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, though, when I say stock to watch, it's not necessarily because it's going to be going up or down. It's because there's an interesting story to tell, and I want to understand more about why it could be moving in that direction. And I was quite intrigued after SATs made their announcement. The stock price went down by, what was it, 22%?
22%. Well, it's lost about 24%
of its value
yeah.
since. So it's interesting to see why investors had reacted in such a way. And there was a wonderful report out in the Straits Times by Ven Srinivasan, and he wrote about why investors have reacted in such a strong manner to this particular announcement from SATs. And today we've got an update from the chief executive of SATs. He has said that he wants shareholders to know that he's looking out for their interests.
Yeah. So in an interview with the Business Times, he stressed that the rights issue is just one of the 4 funding sources for the deal. And a lot of analysts have said that shares of SATs sank after this proposed acquisition because of the rights issue. And he clarified that it's just one of the 4 funding sources. So he says the bridge facility would fully cover the acquisition. He said, I just want to reassure people that I don't need to do a rights issue to complete this transaction. But when he was asked if SATs could do without a rights issue altogether for this transaction, he was hesitant to say this, and he added that the company is working on a mix of the 4 options, and that it will give the rights funding structure to maximize benefits for shareholders. And currently, shares of SATs is up 2.4% at $3.02.
Okay, let's move now to commodities because we've been talking a lot about the move by OPEC Plus. We've seen that the alliance has agreed to its biggest production cut since the start of the pandemic. And there was a fascinating article published in Bloomberg, I think it was earlier on today at around 10 o'clock this morning, and it highlights what each of the big banks, how they're responding to this cut. It's titled, Here's What Goldman to UBS Say About Oil After the Big OPEC Plus Cut. What do they say, Hong Bin?
So looking at Goldman Sachs for the first one. So Damian Corvellin, he says all the developments we have seen on the supply side at this point very much sets the stage for what they believe will be higher prices into the end of this year. So Goldman Sachs actually increased its 4th quarter estimate for Brent by $10 to $110 a barrel. UBS Group, on the other hand, they also say that the oil market is expected to tighten further and Brent will advance above $100 over the coming quarters, and that OPEC Plus cut will combine with the European ban on Russian crude imports and the likely end of OECD releases of strategic oil reserves and higher demand from gas to oil switching this winter to squeeze the market. And ING Group says the move is enough to dramatically change the balance for next year, pushing the market into a deficit for the whole of 2023. And that's according to Warren Patterson from ING. Okay. And yeah, so if you want to check out what other bank analysts say, including Citigroup or RBC Capital Markets, you should check out this article from Bloomberg that is titled, Here's What Goldman to UBS Say About Oil After Big OPEC Plus Cut.
And there's another article from Bloomberg, and this is the last one before we go into sustainable Singapore. And this is 10 companies to watch in the 4th quarter of this year. Hong Bin, don't go through all 10 with us. Just give us the top 3.
All righties. I'm going to choose to talk about China gas.
Okay.
So the forecast for China gas is a bit cloudy, and that's because a cost squeeze is putting the Chinese utilities earnings at risk. So Bloomberg Intelligence says it sees about 1 yuan or 14 US cents in earnings per share for fiscal 2023 versus a consensus estimate of about 1.5 yuan. And secondly, we have Meta. Meta's outlook is also cloudy due to increased competition and rising costs that are putting the social media giant's profitability at risk more than the market appears to appreciate. So estimates for Meta's key gross profit margin could be revised downward by as much as 10 percentage points for 2023. The last one I choose to talk about is Emerson, which has a sunny outlook rather than a cloudy one because of its sustained robust energy markets playing to the electrical equipment market makers' advantages. So Bloomberg's intelligence scenario points to above consensus sales and profit margins with an earnings surprise of almost 10% in fiscal 2023.
Okay.
And there are 7 more, but
You can go and check them
Yes.
out on Bloomberg. Well, okay, that's the market update for now. Hongbin will have more market moves and news for you on Money FM. After the 3:30 news, we go now to Sustainable Singapore.
This is Money FM 89.3, Singapore's most influential radio station. Keeping you company through your workday. Money FM 89.3. Sustainable Singapore on Money FM 89.3.
You are listening to Money FM 89.3. Now, while EV adoption in Singapore has doubled on last year, uptake in the country is still substantially behind other developed EV markets. That's according to the latest report by KPMG. Now, they highlight that of the 645,150 vehicles on the road here in Singapore, only 2,942 are electric. And KPMG adds that increasing EV adoption in Singapore will be critical in the next decade. So what do we need to drive this forward and drive EV adoption here? We're joined now by Sharad Somani, partner and head of infrastructure at KPMG Asia Pacific, to tell us more. Sharad, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Pleasure, Rachel.
So let's start off with those EV adoption numbers moving up, moving in the right direction, but not enough.
Indeed, I think it's a slow start, I must say. And there are multiple headwinds, as you can imagine, facing the sector. But the good news, let's start with the good news. Good news is 8% of all the new registrations of cars are EV. So clearly, from a less than 1% market share to a fast track growth going forward is definitely envisaged. We also believe that the charging infrastructure, it's like a chicken and egg, right? Unless you have charging infrastructure, people may not be comfortable buying EV vehicles. And government's push to get the charging infrastructure rolled out in a faster fashion is going to help quite a lot. We are targeting something like 30,000 charging stations by end of 2030. I believe we will achieve the target much before that. And that will give an impetus to a lot of buyers to look at EV more proactively. But the second issue, which will be important as we move forward to encourage EV adoption, will be the price differential, right? The upfront cost differential is still substantial for people to be concerned about it. Our survey says that more than 50% of Singaporeans want to look at EV, but some of the headwinds relating to charging stations and cost differential would have to be addressed.
How much of a cost differential is there at the moment, Sharad, for those that are looking at EVs? What's the price difference? What are we looking at?
Rachel, the upfront cost differential still is substantial. It's around 30% upfront, which is quite substantial. Even if you were to factor in the subsidy that government is offering of up to $45,000 on EV vehicles, that will not necessarily defray the upfront costs. And that is an impediment. We believe that the cost parity may come in next 3 to 5 years when EV vehicles will come down to a level which is same as our internal combustion engine vehicles. But till that time, I think the take-up might be subdued. Having said that, given that transport sector contributes close to 15% of our emission, and a lot of Singaporeans are keen to defray their carbon footprint, I believe there will be still a decent take-up in the next 3 to 5 years.
Do you drive an EV, Sharad?
I drive a hybrid, so hopefully
Okay.
I will graduate to EV very soon.
In the next 3 to 5 years when the price comes down.
And when my COE expires for current car.
Okay. And like you, I mean, I drive a form of hybrid, but infrastructure is a key issue. Can you talk us through the current rollout when it comes to infrastructure for EV here in Singapore?
It's going pretty well. There is a tender out by HDB to put close to 20,000 charging stations in HDB car parks. I think which is a very, very fundamental step, right? Uh, we are expecting 60,000 charging stations to be put by 2030 by the government. And this will be a combination of public car parks, HDBs, and condominiums, right? And as you reach a critical mass, right, we will probably see a lot more people moving towards charging. Now, in Singapore, that charging infrastructure might not be a big concern, primarily because at one charge, if you can drive 300 kilometers, you may not have to charge every day if you are a relatively light user of car. But that back of the mind comfort is very important, that I have charging station which is available and which can charge the car fast. So those are the two things we need to look at.
That's it, because the last thing you want to do is be on the road and get caught short and not have a charging station to hook up. And then how long does it take to charge the car as well? That may be another question that many potential buyers ask. So when you looked at or your recent report, the sentiment is there, it's positive towards EVs.
That's right. That's a very positive. In fact, most of the survey respondents, in fact, 60% of the respondents believe that EV is the right way going forward. And most are in agreement with the government's commitment to phase out ICE vehicles off the roads by 2040. I think government's commitment to also get diesel car registration stopped beyond 2025 is a great move forward. I think the public fleet infrastructure, if we can get it electrified much faster, well before 2040, I think that's going to be important. And then the private car vehicle ownership can follow through. Our belief is if we get our charging infrastructure in place earlier, then the 2040 deadline could also be moved forward.
Okay. So, and that said, Sharad, we spoke about buying EVs, sentiments towards EVs, and you also spoke about the government grant. What else do potential EV consumers need to know before they buy an electric vehicle here in Singapore?
I think the first thing is to have more choice. I don't think a lot of brands are offering EV vehicles as yet into Singapore. You have seen some couple of big brands already launch it in a big fashion. We need choice, that will be important, and if they can cover various price points, then it will be more effective, isn't it? We don't want every vehicle to be a highly expensive vehicle which may not necessarily be within the reach or choice of various consumers. The second thing which is important is servicing, right? We have no idea how much will be the servicing requirements of these vehicles, whereas the servicing capabilities will be existing by those companies in Singapore. So these top two concerns have to be taken care of before people make a switch to EV.
And that's an important point when you talk about servicing EVs. Do we have the manpower to keep up? And is it a case of also upskilling engineers when it comes to servicing electric vehicles here in Singapore?
And that's an area that I think most of the car companies are looking at. And this will come in terms of see whether it is going to be. Sorry, we'll have to. Sorry, I lost you for a minute.
You did. Could you just repeat that, Sharad? You cut out for a minute.
I said that it is important that what kind of financing and service network comes up is an important decision that will drive the EV adoption. The first thing would be the battery replacement, right? How often do we need to replace the battery, and whether it will be made available by the original equipment provider, the seller of the car, right? That will be a critical component. So a number of things will have to be addressed for majority of our population to become comfortable that they can indeed go and buy EV vehicle and live with it for the next 10 years.
We have a question from Hongbin.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the comments right now, and Arif is wondering if public transport like buses would go electric one day. Could we see that happening?
Yeah, Arif, that's a good question. In fact, that is probably the first step, right? We will have to get the public infrastructure electrified much faster than the private one. And this is where the government of Singapore is also driving, where we believe that bulk of our public infrastructure will be electrified over the next few years. particularly mass transit infrastructure, because the technology is available, the investment can be made centrally, and the charging as well as maintenance could be taken care of in a more centralized fashion. So that's the first step for sure.
What kind of growth do you expect, Sharad, when it comes to EVs? Looking at the numbers, as you mentioned, EV adoption rate, it's doubled this year compared to last year. Can we expect that kind of growth to continue going forward? What are you looking at?
Yeah, I think the double is quite encouraging also, although I must admit that it's starting at a very low base, as you highlighted. Most of the people we spoke to, including car dealers, they believe that 2025 might be a tipping point where you might have fairly strong charging infrastructure setup. There would be some precedence of service quality for EV vehicles and the track record of driving the EV vehicles. Once you have these three things in place, which might take another 2 to 3 years, I believe that 2025 might be the year where suddenly we see a shoot up of number of vehicles getting registered as EV vehicles. The one critical thing which we may have to consider is till the price parity is reached, the government incentives may have to continue. Currently, the government incentives are going to be phased out over the next 2 to 3 years. I think as a policymaker, we may have to think through how to continue with some of the incentives till a critical mass is reached.
Okay, Sharad. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. We've been speaking with Sharad Somani, who is partner and head of infrastructure at KPMG Asia Pacific, about EV adoption here in Singapore. Thank you for joining us on social media today on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. A slight change from tomorrow to our social media streaming. The afternoon update will now be streaming every Friday from 2:30 till 3:30 p.m. So you'll want to join us. We'll start off with a key guest tomorrow. We're going to be speaking with the Young Woman of the Year, Amanda Chong. She's joining us at 2:30. We'll then be joined at the top of the 3 o'clock hour by Jeff Howie, market strategist at the SGX, to break down all the key market moves and news for you as well. So if you've got any questions, as always, text us 88550893. Let us know what you want us to ask the guests that will be joining us live every Friday on the afternoon update. Of course, the show has not come to an end. We are still on your radio airwaves all the way up until 4 o'clock. And after that, we've got prime time. So stay with us on Money FM 89.3.
The afternoon update.
Money FM 89.3.